It's no secret that Dreamcatcher have been digging their own little niche within the K-pop scene for years now, but it's with songs like these that niche expands, opening up into a world one could only imagine before.
Is that Dream again? The city of soul. Please someone fight for us.
Dreamcatcher is back again with yet another amazing album. There's so much to be excited for with this one, and I have so much to say, but allow me to lay some ground rules first. For one, this review will be broken into two parts. The first 7 songs on this album, including the skit, will be looked at as one individual entity, with each song branching off into the next. Their solos will be looked at as entirely separate beings, and will be tied into the girls themselves rather than the album as a whole. I feel like that's the only fair way to judge albums like this. Honestly, it's not my favorite way to present solos from a group, but a lot of groups do it, so that's how we're going to go about it. Secondly, I thought it might be interesting to share some of my thoughts before I heard the songs entirely, and see how I felt both before and after. So I jotted down some quick notes while listening to the teasers the other day, and will present those along with my official review of the full song. Lastly, I just want to say that this was an amazing album, one of their best yet, and any criticism I present is just coming from a creative standpoint. I love these girls and their music so much, and there's not a harm I would do to a hair on their heads. Anyways, with all that said, please buckle your seatbelts, keep your hands and feet inside the car at all times, and get ready for takeoff. Dreamcatcher are really one of the last groups to really put an effort into their intros anymore. Intros are something that I think other companies can take for granted sometimes. They can be a great opener for an album, and even more so for a group like Dreamcatcher, who seem to build upon their own little worlds with each and every release. A good intro is a good base, and without a good base, your ivory tower is likely to bend and fall. One thing I've noticed about Dreamcatcher's intros is how they use sounds to create a picture in your head. And I know, this sounds a little bit out of place. It's an album. Obviously, everything is going to be using sounds to convey a point. But here, I mean something a little bit more specific. The grainy record-like organ that opens is already making you feel uneasy, and accompanied by the beats that are just a little off-kilter enough to sound like something moving in the background, it gives an eerie feeling to the air. It feels as if you're being followed, stalked by something that isn't supposed to be there. Or are you the one that's not supposed to be there? Then suddenly the organ is joined by strings filling the air with their chilling sounds, only for the record to scratch and start anew, a more upbeat anthem. This is what I love so much about this intro. It feels like them throwing out their old, creepy look for something new, something fresh. The second part of this intro sounds like something that would play in an action game, right as you meet the big boss. It's like they're finally over their fears, finally able to stand up and fight the horrors that have haunted them for so long. It feels like a new era. Listening to the song and the highlight medley, all I could think about was how they've managed to ingrain this jazzy-like sound into their music. From now on, when I think of Dreamcatcher's B-sides, I'm going to be reminded of funky beats accompanied by groovy melodies. I think that's what they're best at. It isn't so much matching any concept or style or sound, rather it's finding what they're good at and sticking with it, continuing to improve on that part of music with every release. My initial thoughts haven't changed much, but I did realize that the song does seem to have more of a rock influence to it than some of their others like it. The drums are so intense and heavy in this song, beating it along with every beat of the drums. But one thing that stuck out to me the most was that guitar in the chorus. It holds so much tension in its strings, and that one riff is enough to make the entire chorus feel tight, especially when multiplied by Siyeon's and Yoohyeon's runs in the final chorus. It feels so full, so tense, as if even one more note could snap it in half. I think that's part of what makes the jazz music so good. It's fun to listen to, it can be groovy and funky, but it's the tension in those golden notes that make your bones twist and turn to the beats. Ras singing about love and heartache all at once that binds you to those notes and makes you into their puppet. This song was a great take on the genre, and it's so neat to see their own twist on such a classic sound. I'm not gonna lie, upon first listen, this song didn't appeal to me as much as some of the others. It felt almost muted in a way, and while I could see what they were going for, I wasn't too sure if they were going to be able to accomplish it in just one song. Needless to say, but I was wrong. Easily one of their best so far, and this is exactly the style I have been waiting for them to try again ever since Deja Vu. A lot of groups and artists have tried the rock genre by now, but it's songs like these that manage to keep Dreamcatcher at the top of the list. Songs like these feel big, bold, epic, almost cinematic in a sense. They feel larger than life. That ever so slight nod to classic metal they still hold in their music, the attention to detail that goes into every verse, every line, every note, it all adds up and creates what we sort of umbrella term as rock, but really it's so much more than that. And this bridge is one of my favorite examples. Before the bridge, this song feels as if it's on a constant loop. There's no build-ups into the high points, just a straight shot into battle. It's almost like starting at the top of a roller coaster and falling face first into what feels like an endless black hole. I think it's what made this song feel so stale upon first listen. But this bridge breaks it up. Coming straight off the fast-paced chorus, the bridge slows down a bit and adding a very needed break from the constant fight between the drums and the guitar. Then it fades right back into the hook, but this time with a different feel. This is the build-up. This is the climax we've been waiting for. We weren't falling, we were rising this whole time, and as the cart finally reaches its high, light finally breaking into the darkness, you tip over the edge, falling faster than you could have ever imagined, back into the darkness once again. This time, accompanied by twists and turns that you can never see coming. The drop is what makes it all worth it. I love the way they break up the final chorus with gahyeon's chanting. It makes it feel fuller somehow, more complete. The choir behind her only adding to the song's cinematic feel. All around, the final few seconds of the song just feel so much bigger than the rest. It feels like the climax of a great fight scene, a great story. Then it ends as quickly as it begun, with one last plea of help against the army that only they can see. I only had 3 words jotted down for this song prior to my first listen. Pretty, fluttery, and vocals. But sometimes that's all you need to sum up a good song. This sound isn't something we see on them super often, but that doesn't make it any less beautiful. Sometimes you don't have to do something different to stand out. Sometimes fitting in is all it takes to make waves. More than anything, I want to use this time to talk about what this song does for the album as a whole. What role does it play? Albums are so much more than just a means of releasing music. They're created to tell a story, whether it be through poetry or sound alone. The less direct approach, the more liberty the listener has when deciding what this piece of art means. I said before how their intro kind of acts as a bridge between their old versus their new. It starts that fast-paced battle with its intense instrumental that leads into the song Maison, the title. Those 2 songs are tied together, but there's something in between, something a little softer. There's 2 sides to every fight. Violence has never won a war. So what happens in the in-between? What do we cling to into the meantime? It's songs like these that pull the album together. There's no peace without war, and no war without the desire of peace. They're a balanced product, and one wrong move can send either toppling over in either direction. Starlight is the division symbol, the in-between. It's the balance, the beam supports. And it's why it's right smack down in the middle. It might not carry the album like Maison does, and it might not sing a lullaby in the same way some of the later songs do. But it has a role to play, and it plays it well. It does exactly what it was meant to do, and nothing more or nothing less. It's the perfect lever for a war left hanging. We'll be together. My first thoughts when it came to this song were about the same as the last. It feels like the perfect centerpiece, but not so much something that could stand completely on its own. Pretty, light, fluttery. That's about where my thoughts stopped. Though I will say this one does seem to have more of a brighter feel to it. It's almost cute in a way, once again, something that we don't see on them very often. It feels like watching flowers you've never seen before bloom in the aftermath of a war. It feels out of place, like it shouldn't be there. But it looks like a beautiful gift nonetheless, like an oasis in the desert, bidding you to come closer, take a drink, relax, rehydrate. It feels unreal, like a beautiful fantasy. If I had one complaint about this song, it would be that it does sound a little bit repetitive. I feel like that's kind of become one of the themes in this album. That feeling of familiarity being so beat into your head from the beginning, only to break away from it at the halfway mark. The bridges of these songs have their work cut out for them, but they do a good job for the most part. I have to say though, I don't think this one has the same effect. It's a good song, and it still adds a breath of fresh air into this album, but I just can't help but think that it feels a bit short compared to some of the others on this album. It just feels like it never breaks off into its own thing. Just gets stale after a little while. Just another ballad. For a group that is known for having such an intense sound, they certainly do release a lot of ballads. I'm not complaining, I love ballads, and as I said before, Dreamcatcher do seem to have a very old school approach in the actual creation of the album itself. So having a ballad tucked onto the end feels almost expected of them by this point. However, while I do love their voices and would love to get some more in-depth releases in the future, I do still think that there's a time and place for songs like these, and slapped on the ass end of an album such as this is not it. The ending of the album should leave listeners wanting to come back for more. Yet all I can think about when I listen to this song is how much I want to experience Maison again. With all that said, the song is still very beautiful, and I love it as a standalone piece, but tacked onto the end of an album like this, it kinda makes me resent it just a little bit. One last stop before we're on to the fun part. I spent a lot of time trying to decide if this was supposed to be an outro of sorts or just an interlude to lead into the solos. And honestly, I think it's a little bit of both. It's the first time they've stuck a song like this into their albums, and I think it acts as a great divider between the two parts of this album. Even the song itself feels like it's almost broken into thirds, beginning, middle, and end. It's a very creative way to break apart these two sections of the album. Anyways, that wraps up the first half of this review. If you're still here, well, color me impressed. But we're only about halfway there yet. Please continue to keep your hands and feet inside the car, and please refrain from touching any suspicious objects that might float your way. I'm not really sure how to describe this song other than Jihyo herself. This song is exactly what I feel when I look at her. Wonderment, amazement, just a good, fun feeling following her wherever she goes. I absolutely love her voice in this chorus. It shows a side to her that she doesn't usually get to show off in some of their other tracks. I also love the sassiness portrayed in the second part of the chorus. It adds a second layer to the song, and just reminds me even more of Jihyo herself and her oftentimes playful personality. The bass in the song also seems to have a mind of its own as well, almost like it's murmuring her unspoken words underneath the main melody. There's so many moving components in this song that make it feel unique in a way that others like it don't. With every new verse, there's an added layer, a new synth, another guitar line, some added brass, and even more of that beautiful bass. This song feels alive in a way that few others don't, and Jihyo's soft voice accompanying it forges it in a way that isn't describable in mere words. It feels safe, it feels secure, it feels like home. Even with the small portion of this song I heard on the highlight medley, all I could imagine was her performing this song. Her powerful vocals and dance, incorporated with her intense presence on a stage, would give this song a platform it deserves. If Jihyo's song gives life to her character, Sua's characteristics would give life to this song. Even now, all I can imagine is her performing on a stage. This song is a perfect mix of everything she's good at. The hardcore drop in the chorus that seems like it comes out of nowhere, the implications of madness and insanity, as well as the heavy dance break would all complement her overwhelming intensity on a stage. But the softer, more charismatic portions would convey her fluidity in music in ways we very rarely see from her on official tracks. I think it's the perfect song for a performer like her, and I just can't help but hope we get a lot of performances for this song. siyeon certainly had some big shoes to fill coming into this, considering she's the only one with an official solo release prior to this album. Paradise is a big song to live up to, but I truly think she has done it. These two songs have completely different feels to them, yet both hold a power that only siyeon could wield. Entrancing was certainly a well thought out title for this song. I don't think anyone could listen to the song and not feel entranced. It paints such a beautiful world in your mind with such a simple melody. The lyrics only aiding in creating such vivid imagery in your head. Imagery of beautiful night skies laced with traces of perfect purples and brilliant blues. This song takes you back to a time when things were simpler. If you just close your eyes, you can almost imagine the life you have fading away into a time of great nostalgia. Happy memories and a lifetime of happiness. Back when nothing was wrong. Back when your world consisted solely of who you knew and who you saw on a day-to-day basis. Back before you knew the world was as big and scary as it truly is. Back when the only monsters that scared you were the monsters hiding under your bed. The song's historical influence paints a world that we can only imagine, yet it's something that feels so familiar to us. This song has something written into it that makes it feel lighter. It makes the breaths you take so much easier. Siyeon did an amazing job on this song. It is truly something spectacular and something I think few others could truly pull off. If I'm being totally honest, Handong Solo was the one I was the most excited for. Not because it sounded particularly interesting or flashy, but because I think she has a beautiful voice and have always loved whenever she is finally given the chance of her own to show off what she is capable of. It's such a simple yet beautiful song. It's laced with so much love and effort that it almost feels like it should be playing in the back of some romance movie. Her soft vocals carry the simple melody along and allow for such a special feeling to enter my heart. That being said, by far my most favorite part of the song was the final line. There's always been something so hauntingly beautiful about Handong singing in her mother tongue. The chills that ran down my spine as she switched so effortlessly into that eerie melody. The instruments fade out, leaving her voice raw and exposed in its purest form. It's something that sticks with you even after the song has long since ended, adding a chilling ending to an already heartbreaking song. In her most comfortable state is where she always shines the brightest, and that is so evident in this final farewell. Yet another song that feels like it was perfectly crafted for the members singing it. I do have to say that this feels like the most well thought out solo thus far. Not only were they able to show off how hard yoohyeon has been working on learning the English language, but also uses her voice to its fullest potential. Songs like these that push and pull the vocals back and forth from soft to sweet to strong and powerful have always been her strong suit. They've always been something that she has managed to pull the most from, and through that I think this sort of old soul persona has stuck to her in a way. Sometimes she can come off as someone much older, much wiser. She has this feeling of togetherness that few other people possess, even in their later years. It makes her seem as if she has everything figured out when a lot of times she probably doesn't any more than the rest of us. It's such an attractive trait, something that both makes her feel more human, more like one of us, and even better than the average person all at once. This song is something that's been sung before, even by yoohyeon herself, but there's a special feeling of love and appreciation laced within the track. It's magical in a way that only she can make it feel. A love song towards the people that have made her into who she is. Now this has to be the solo that hyped me up the most pre-listen. I love that classic punk rock feel. It's something that a lot of other rappers have gone for recently, and it's something that I think fits Dami very well. It's the type of song where you just want to get up and dance. Get away from whatever is worrying you, throw away your work, and just let loose for a minute while the song plays. In the end, that's all Pok Pok was ever supposed to be. Just some fun music to let loose to. Just something to ease the weight of the world for a moment. It's the type of music you turn to while speeding down the freeway, screaming at the top of your lungs because who cares what happens in the future? I'm here now and that's all that matters. The song feels more like Dami's wants and desires rather than who she is as a person. She has her own unique beauty to her. She's found herself and is happy with who she is. But sometimes it's okay to just cut loose and have fun for a bit. Live while you're young and worry about the consequences later. Dami's full of beauty in her own ways, and this song describes it so well. This is actually the song I had the fewest expectations going in for. It sounded like a good, fun song, something that fit gahyeon well, but that was all really. Just another song on the album. But Wow, this one impressed me the most. This song is filled to the brim with colorful melodies and playful notes, a song about childhood innocence lost in the wake of growing older. Brass instruments weave the scenes between their notes, and the pianos color in with their playful symphonies, recreating the world that you thought you had once lost when you grew older. Back when double digits were a huge milestone, back before life took its course and sucked the imagination right out of you. This song puts it all right back into you, making your inner child quake in reawakening. I'm not sure there's a better song out there for someone like gahyeon, someone we've seen grow up through the years, learn how to live out on her own while never losing her childlike innocence. She's comfortable enough with who she is to admit that there's still a child inside of her waiting for someone to come play, to tickle her imagination once more, and she's more than willing to protect that part of her, willing to give in to that child's desire even now. It's a beautiful memoir to the child inside of us all. And that's the end. Please wait for the ride to come to a complete stop before unbuckling your seatbelts and exiting to the right of the cart. This album really did feel like a roller coaster, but like any other ride, the highs outweighed the lows. I can't quite say it's my favorite album ever, but it is still most definitely one of their best works. Personally, I think the solos impressed me the most. They all fit the girls so well, and they all did an amazing job portraying them. Definitely something that will be on my playlist for years to come. Anyways, thanks so much for coming along for the ride. I truly hope you enjoyed my review, and I hope to see you on the next one. Until next time, travelers.